Question number 24. To log into the network, you need a username and password. Two aspects of a password that make it a good password. Pause the video, write down your answer. Your answer is that it should have at least 8 characters. There might be a combination of capital letters, lowercase letters, numbers and special characters. That will be worth 1 mark, and also that it's not something easy to guess, such as your name, name of your pet, etc. 25. Creative Commons licenses are provided to encourage information to be shared. Why might a company use this type of license for some of all of their copyright material? Pause the video, write down your answer. And your answer is to make it, if it's shared, people use it more freely. Maybe it'll generate more business for your interest. So if it's, say for example, a menu for a pub or a restaurant, then if it's got Creative Commons license, so you can pass it on and email it to other people and share that information, that it might generate more business for you. People might also improve it, so might use it and improve it with you. So other people might suggest some improvements that could be made to your menu if it's shared. A computer screen has a resolution of 1920 by 1080 pixels. Pixels are dots, so that means it's got 1920 across and 1080 down. So to work out the number of dots, you need to multiply those two numbers together. Each pixel is given 4 bytes of data, so whatever number you get from multiplying those two numbers together, you need to multiply it by 4. And then you need to work out how many bytes are in a kilobyte, and that will give you your answer. Pause the video, write down your answer. The answer is 8 megabytes, because I've not got a calculator with me, but when you multiply those two together and multiply it by 4, I reckon it'll come out at about 8 million, because there's 1,000 bytes of data in a kilobyte, and there's 1,000 kilobytes in a megabyte, and 1,000 times 1,000 is 1,000,000. So a megabyte is 1,000,000 bytes of data, or near enough. A vector graphics image is displayed on new high-resolution, high-definition television. The TV has 2 million dots, 2 million pixels, but the graphic file is just 35 pixels for 35,000 K is 1,000 pixels in size. Explain why the image on the screen is good quality when the data file is so much smaller when it's needed to fill the screen. So it's asking you what happens when you resize a vector graphic image and why. 2 marks, pause your video, write down your answer. And your answer is that it's based on shapes, objects, on coordinates, on a grid, almost like a graph. And so when it's resized, it doesn't lose any quality. So it scales effectively. In other words, it resizes, doesn't lose any quality, and doesn't get any larger, because it's based on objects, drawings on a grid of coordinates. 28. Files can be made smaller by compressing them. There are 2 main ways of doing this: lossless compression and lossy compression. Give an example of a file type that is compressed losslessly and a file type that's compressed with lossy compression. 2 marks, pause the video, write down your answer. So a file, when you compress it, can either lose data, so when you uncompress it, make it bigger again, it's lost data, or lossless compression is when you make it smaller and bigger again, it doesn't lose data. Your answer is then lossy. Ones that will lose data if you make them smaller and bigger again are things like an MP3. That's relatively easy to remember. And another one is something like a PNG file. That's a graphic file that can be made smaller and then bigger again without losing any data. Why would it be a problem if a computer program, file or web pages was compressed with lossy compression? 2 marks. I think I've answered that previously. Pause the video, write down your answer. So if you make a file smaller and then resize it again, if it's got lossy compression, it loses loss of data, loses some data. so you might lose some information. Now, that's a web page or a program, then you're not going to have all the information on your web page, or the program may not run properly. Question 30. An example of a keyboard shortcut and explain what is used to do. 2 marks. Pause the video, write down your answer. There's lots of them. Control and C to copy a piece of text, Control and V to paste it, Control and A to select everything, Control and B to make a piece of text, bold, Control and U to make it underline, Control and I for italics. Your friend is proposing to buy a license for some word processing software that will be installed with a license key to prevent it being copied. Explain to your friend other options, save her money and less restricted in use. So this is all about open source software. The difficult thing is you've got to think of 4 things to say. Pause the video, write down your answer. The answer is they could open source packages. OpenOffice is the main one, so you're not going to pay for Microsoft Office. OpenOffice you can download. It's open source software, free to use. It's feature rich, so people think, oh, well, I'm going to buy Microsoft Office because it's better than OpenOffice. Complete and utter rubbish. OpenOffice has got all the features of Microsoft Office, things like PowerPoint, Word, Excel, etc. You can get free versions of them. It's interoperable. That means that you can import things from Microsoft Office, like Word and PowerPoint, things like that. So it's completely compatible with other systems. There's no reason not to use it. And you can also use cloud-based systems, such as Google Docs, where you can run wikis. So you can more than one person can help you write things at the same time. Why might running a small business using a web browser to access all resources be beneficial to productivity and efficiency? So again, this is like where you're using a cloud-based system to use a browser, things like Internet Explorer, Chrome, Safari, etc., to access an app or a piece of data, a piece of software over the internet. Why is that beneficial for productivity and efficiency for a business? Pause the video, write down your answer. And the answer is that it's license free, so it's going to save you some money. So if it's open source software, it doesn't cost anything, there's no license fee. You can access apps via a web browser as anywhere you want, anytime you want, as long as you've got a device that can access the internet and you've got internet access, which might be a problem, but most of the time it's not. It allows collaboration, so more than one person can work on a document at the same time, and it'll update that information from all users. 33. Portable apps is a means of running software from a USB memory stick legally without paying money. So in other words, you've got all your software on a USB memory stick. You don't actually install it into your device at all. You just carry your memory stick around. You can plug it into any computer and run the software from the USB memory stick. The website and software are supported by volunteers and donations, so it's free open source. Apart from saving money on software licenses, what might it be an advantage to run software from a USB memory stick? Imagine if you could carry all your software around with you and just plug it in on any computer and then run that software, and you don't have to worry that it's not been installed on that computer. 2 marks. Pause the video, write down your answer. The answer is it's portable, so you're carrying the software around with you. As long as you can use a computer, you can use your own system. It's on your all the software can be run from a USB stick, and it's very secure. We can also say it's faster as well. It's faster running straight from a USB stick than having to install it and then run it from the computer. More convenient is also another acceptable answer. Lots of answers there for 2 marks. Portable apps, as before, started as open source software, so community people like you and me writing the software and developing it, making it freely available and updating it, improving it all the time. Explain why there's a link between the effectiveness of portable apps and open source software licensing. Tricky one for 3 marks. Pause the video, write down your answer. The answer is open source software allows anybody to download systems to see how they work and improve them. So open source software, the key is they improve them. They can improve it and fix any problems with them. And it's usually free to use as well, which is probably another acceptable reason. So free to use, a community of people like you and I improve the system and update it and fix any problems with it. 35. You get an email from an unknown lawyer saying that they have £1 million that they think is yours. Wow, great, let's have it. No. Left to you by a distant relative who has died. So you're not sure who it is, why. It's going to be fraud. It's going to be a problem. What action should you take? 1 mark. Pause the video, write down your answer. You don't want anything to do with that. You want to delete it. It's a phishing email, so in other words, it's a false website or a false communication. Delete it, or contact the police. You and your friends design a community website that you need some terms and conditions for to make those accounts on the website to join the community. Give 3 conditions you'll make people sign up for before they given a username and password. Say which of these conditions is the most important and why. Tough question for 4 marks, that. So what are you going to ask of them before you give them a username and password, and which one's the most important? Pause the video, write down your answer. So you're going to demand from them, or say to them that they can't steal any information. They're not going to put up anything that's inappropriate. They're not going to bully anybody. They're not going to share their login details or anything else like that. So use an acceptable use policy, basically, what they shouldn't do if they're going to join your community. So think about the things that you agree to do when you sign up for Facebook. If you actually read the terms and conditions before you signed up for Facebook, that would have been a good idea. Question 37. What's interoperability mean? 2 marks, pause the video, write down your answer. It means that files and data can be shared between different software applications. So I've got one software application and another one. Someone sends me something, I can import it into my software application. I can import information from one software package into another. It makes them easier to use. If I know that I can import things into my piece of software, then it's easier to use and it's going to reach a wider audience, because I'm going to be able to import lots of different file formats into my software. For 2 marks. Why are open standards important for interoperability? 2 marks. Pause the video, write down your answer. If open standards are used, you can see how to make it work with the software, and you can develop it. In other words, you're given the code, you're given the ability to change it, a bit like a mod on a game. You can change it and make it work the way you want it to. You also know that your work will be useful as it operate more widely, so you can share your work. Tricky question, that. Give 2 reasons why we should be more tolerant of errors in English and open-based forums and email lists. So say, for example, on Facebook and Instagram, why we should be tolerant of errors in English. 2 marks. Pause the video, write down your answer. So maybe people don't have English as their first language. You've got to be tolerant of everybody. Maybe if they don't have English as their first language, and maybe they'll make some spelling mistakes. And good behaviour is just generally acceptable in a civilised society. So good behaviour is acceptable. The image below shows information about salaries and open source software. Okay, a large graph. What's the question asking? In 2004, it takes £1,279.30 to buy what would have been £1,000 worth in 2004. In the same period shown in the graph, has it been financially advantageous to have a job in open source software? Answer, 3 marks. And the answer is, the average income was not higher than previous years, so probably no real advantage. After 2009, the average pay seems to increase regularly, and over time the salary has increased, so it's more advantageous, with some salaries being very high.